Hi everyone, this is Natalie with Champion of Coins Tarot. I hope that you are doing very well today. I wanted to come on today to film a review video of The Golden Tarot by Liz Dean with artwork by Melissa Launay. This is my first tarot deck. I purchased it as a gift to myself on my 18th birthday, and since then it has been a constant presence by my side. This is undoubtedly my favorite tarot deck of all time. It is one that has offered so much just unconditional love and so much wisdom to me on my path. And I'm going to try my best to be as objective as possible. I am going to be talking about some of the downsides of this deck as well, because it certainly is not perfect. However, I love it despite all of those imperfections. So do take what I have to say with a grain of salt. I realize that this is not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but this certainly just has such a deep and profound place in my heart that there's no way that I am going to be completely unbiased. So do bear with me. But to start, let's go ahead and talk about the specs of this deck. This was published in 2008 by Chico Books and is still in print. You can find it for sale at Barnes & Noble and on Amazon for a very cheap price, less than $20. The deck comes with a hard box. However, it is not a very high quality one. In fact, I had to throw the box away less than a year into working with it because it was of such flimsy quality. Even though it was hard, it opened on the side and the cards would just spill out, and it wasn't practical for long-term storage. So if you get this deck new, I would advise to keep it in a deck bag. That is going to be much safer in the long run than keeping it in the original packaging. Now that being said, it does come with a very thorough 64-page guidebook. It goes into a brief introduction of tarot history and of symbolism. This deck in particular was commissioned for the 600-year anniversary of the Visconti Sforza Tarot, and it really blends together the qualities of the Visconti Sforza with the Rider-Waite-Smith. It comes with several different spreads, which I found to be very helpful as a new reader. You have the past, present, and future spread. You have a question and answer spread, which is designed for yes or no situations. However, it really does give you more meat to work with by looking at the obstacles or challenges that you might face, along with both the outer and the inner impact upon you. You have a week ahead spread with a significator card encapsulating the energy of the week, and then a card for each day. The Golden Star spread, which is similar to a mini Celtic cross that really focuses on the factors impacting a querent at the present moment. And then you have the full 10-card Celtic cross with all of the traditional placements. Now this deck, because it is very much inspired by this Visconti Sforza, it is a pip deck, and it does offer more predictive meanings than I think most modern guidebooks would now. You do have a full color depiction of all of the cards, and for the majors, you have keywords, the associated planet or sign, so you can dive in a little bit with the astrological meanings behind the cards. You have a brief paragraph describing the symbolism, and then the upright meaning of the card and the reversed meaning of the card. I used to read reversals with this deck. I don't as much anymore, but I find that it is very valuable. And then for the minor arcana, you only have a half page with upright and reversed meanings for these pip cards. So I will say my one gripe with the guidebook is that because it focuses on such a predictive method of reading tarot, it isn't as accessible as, say, a Rider-Waite-Smith clone would be. And I actually did find that very hard when I was first starting out. It really pushed me to do a deeper study into traditional tarot symbolism and then come back to the deck with all of that accumulated knowledge. So I don't read this as a Marseille style deck. I don't necessarily read this deck in a predictive way. I very much have taken my own knowledge of the Rider-Waite-Smith and also my own personal meanings of the cards that I have come to understand through my life experience and apply it to the deck in this way. So that is my caution against the guidebook. The other con of this deck is that just like with the box, the cardstock itself is not very high quality material. It is plastic coated like a lot of other Chico decks, but it is not as robust or as strong as the cardstock of the Fallen Angels Oracle or the Dragon Tarot, for example. This deck chips very easily. And I had to edge this deck in 2016, 2 years after I got it, because it was already just so scuffed up. And this, I mean, you can see, like, these are inconsistencies when I edge the deck. Like, this is further chipping and further damage that it has accumulated since 2016. So that's another thing that I would say to be conscientious of. If you are somebody where the quality of the cardstock very much matters to you, then this might not be your cup of tea. But I'm willing to overlook all of the flaws in the cardstock. And I found that even though I riffle shuffle this deck, it actually holds up quite well. It hasn't suffered any kind of warping whatsoever. It maintains its shape very well. It's just the edges of the deck are very fragile. So again, just be gentle with it. Treat it with a lot of love and TLC. So here are the backs of the cards. I find that it has a very beautiful stained glass quality. You have the fleur-de-lis there on the back. So I think it really kind of sets the tone for the kind of medieval art style that is found throughout the rest of the deck. The images are bordered, and you have this very lovely, it's almost like an illuminated manuscript style. The frame is like a window into the world of each card. The figures themselves are very simplistic in terms of facial expression. They all have this kind of dreamy, peaceful light quality to them. But then the backgrounds and the fabric of the clothes that they are wearing is incredibly detailed. So even though the faces are very simplistic, there is a lot of richness, there's a lot of texture to draw off of in the images. The sun especially is a repeating ornate motif that again really invokes that illuminated quality. So here we have a rather traditional looking fool poised on the edge with his animal companion. I also love the touch of the butterfly in this because the fool is the seed of potential in the tarot. He can transform into all of the other archetypes. So I like that element here. The magician, donning the traditional red and white clothes with all of his materials before him. And I do love that he's standing in a field of roses. I think that that speaks to the creative potential that is so innate in this card. The High Priestess. Very traditional, although she is dressed more as a papess. I see her very much as being a holder of esoteric wisdom because you have this tapestry behind her with the pomegranate, which, you know, in Greek mythology, also in Hebrew mythology, like the pomegranate is very initiatory. And its seeds are seen as being akin to the 613 commandments in the Torah. So kind of this divine wisdom that is hidden throughout all of creation. Another motif that you're going to see a lot of in this deck is the checkerboard floor. This is a Masonic symbol, and the black and white tiles represent the dark and the light aspects of the self, of the human psyche. And so the High Priestess, she's raised on this dais above it. Her wisdom is transcendent and informs but is higher than human experience. So again, I quite like the mystery and the initiation that is symbolized in this card. The Empress, who is out in nature. She is covered by this beautiful cherry blossom tree. And she also holds the symbols of power in this Visconti Sforza. So she has the orb, she has the shield representing statehood. And so I really like the fact that this Empress has a lot of political power and a lot of authority. Although she certainly also maintains, again, like this motherliness, this deep connection with nature and the natural world. The Emperor, in contrast, is seated in his throne room. He is ready to receive visitors. He also holds the emblems of statehood. And unlike the High Priestess, here his feet are on the floor. So he is somebody who is having to make important decisions, who is having to weigh the morality of a given situation. You also have the symbols of Aries here present in the pillar, speaking to the traditional astrological significance of this card. And I do like that even though he is inside, he has this tapestry behind him that displays a window into the natural world. So it almost speaks of kind of this medieval notion of divine kingship, that there is natural order that kind of arises from chaos. The Hierophant, very similar to the High Priestess. However, here the tapestry is stripped away and he is donning the clothes of the Pope. He has the cross. He has his hand outstretched, giving the traditional blessing or benediction. So here you really have the signifiers of orthodoxy, of established tradition, of external faith, as opposed to the High Priestess, who is very much the keeper of those esoteric interior mysteries. The Lovers. This is just courtly love. You have these very young people who are just enthralled by Cupid's arrow. So yeah, definitely plays up the more romantic aspects of this card. The Chariot. So here we have some of the Rider-Waite-Smith symbolism with the moons on his shoulder coming into play. Again, speaking to that astrological symbolism that is present within the tarot system. But also, like, this chariot is very much guided by the driver's intuition and the ability to harmonize the different aspects of the self, different competing passions, to go forward in service of progress, in service of the same goal. Justice. This is just my favorite depiction of justice ever. Just like within the Visconti Sforza, this is a female figure. She's raised up above the floor. So again, being beyond human concerns, human impulses, human irrationality, and being able to make a very clear-sighted decision. She's very much in tune with this higher sense of knowledge and this higher sense of responsibility, and is not as easily swayed by emotion. And I've gotten a very Marian feeling from this card as well, just in terms of the way that she is dressed, which is honestly a bit of a mystery to me. But I think also speaks to this kind of sense of divine authority, that there is almost like this give and take that is beyond human knowing. The Hermit. So very traditional, you have him out in nature alone by himself, but you also have the addition of the snake around his rod. And so that, to me, speaks very deeply of wisdom and of healing. And then you also have an hourglass that is dangling above him from this tree. And I think, to me, this speaks about the balance between introspection and action, about how it's very important for us sometimes to be in solitude and to get to know ourselves, to get to know the root of our desires, to seek a place of peace and inner harmony. But at the same time, we can't fully retreat from the world. We can't fully step back from our responsibilities. Instead, we have to act from a state of balance. So I really, really like this hermit. This is another one of just my all-time favorite tarot depictions. We have the Wheel of Fortune, symbolizing seasonality with the two trees. But also this very much speaks about power. And I think the rise and fall of different eras in human history. So I quite like that. You have strength, very traditional depiction. I love this artwork. She feels like she has it all together. She's very strong in herself. The Hanged Man. And here the branches twisted itself around his foot. So I think very reminiscent of Yggdrasil or world tree symbolism. Now, Death is the only major arcana card that is untraditional. Instead of the figure with the scythe, we have a woman who is clutching, it could be a leaf, it could also be a match with a flame to her chest. And she's out in the wilderness during fall. The seasons are changing. The trees are perceivably dying, and you have the setting sun. So there is a sense of finality to this card, but it's part of a larger cycle of death and rebirth. I think that there is still hope to be gleaned here. You know, the assurance that the sun will rise, the assurance that spring will come back and be in bloom. So, yeah, just a different, more gentle and perhaps more hopeful way of looking at death. Temperance, very much Rider-Waite-Smith imagery with the rainbow. You have the road leading back. The Devil, also very much Rider-Waite-Smith in nature. Here you have the devil embodied as Pan, the capricious god of nature. The Tower. Just so beautiful. I love just, again, all of the details in the background here. And it feels like there's a lot of movement and, again, just a lot of vibrant energy within these cards. The Star. Very hopeful, very serene. Now the Moon card. Now this is actually inspired by the Moon card in the Charles VI Tarot, which is another historical tarot deck. And you have these two female astrologers who are looking for guidance from the moon, from the stars. However, you do also have the more traditional dogs in the background. And I quite like this. This is one that has a lot of personal meaning to me. It's come up in a lot of readings for myself and also for readings with friends. So there's like this sense of uncertainty, but also this sense of partnership. Like you are not alone in the night. There are still resources. There is still connection available to you, even during these intense times of darkness or uncertainty. The Sun. Also kind of a more traditional Visconti Sforza sun. Instead of babies, you have cherubs who are just bathed in this beautiful light. Judgment. The angel hearkening the dead to come back to life. Again, you have the hourglass here as well. And then the World, supported by these angelic forces that keep the universe in perpetual motion. So that is a look at the major arcana. Now I'm going to flip more quickly through the minors because they are unillustrated. Each of these, though, like each of these suits does correspond with a specific season. So the cups correspond with summer, and the backdrop for all of them is this very serene lake. So again, very pippish. And then when we come to the courts, these are all very traditional, more Rider-Waite-Smith-esque portrayals. So we have the page, who is just enthralled with the radiance of the cup that he has found and this deep wellspring of emotion. I apologize, I am trying not to bump the tripod, but I seem to be doing so anyway. Here we have the knight. Here we have the Queen of Cups. And again, all of the queens and the kings are going to be very rooted on this checkerboard of human experience, holding the essence of their suit aloft. Pentacles, which correspond in the deck with fall. So we have kind of this verdant field, perhaps of barley that is ready to be harvested and cultivated. And I really do like just all of the colors in the pentacles and in the minor cards. I do feel like it reads very cohesively, despite not having much more imagery to go off of. Here we have the Page of Pentacles, the Knight of Pentacles, the Queen of Pentacles, and the King of Pentacles. I like that he is looking straight on at the reader. He's so firmly rooted in his own personal power and agency, and confident in all that he has to share with the world. Next are swords, which correspond to winter in this deck. And again, you have the same colors in the hilt of the sword as you saw in the cup and in the coins. And this feels very blustery to me, even though these backgrounds are, again, very, very simplistic. I actually do feel this sense of movement, this kind of sense of turbulence that often comes, you know, with racing thoughts. So very, very elemental. And then again, we come to the Page. I like the radiant energy coming off of the sword as well. The Knight. The Queen. And the King. And then finally we come to the Wands. This is meant to correspond with spring. I actually feel like this, just in terms of the color palette, looks a lot more like fall. But I mean, orange and red are my favorite colors, so I'm never going to complain about that kind of color palette in a deck. And it does make it very visually distinctive from the other suits. So even though I wouldn't necessarily recommend this as a beginner's deck, but just the strong color does make it a lot easier to be able to read and interpret a larger spread. So we finally come to these courts, the Page, the Knight of Wands, the Queen of Wands, and the King of Wands. So why do I love this deck? Why do I love this deck when it has such difficult cardstock, when it's a pip deck, when it has some of these strikes against it, right? The reason why I love this deck, and this goes beyond just simply nostalgia, although it does have so many wonderful memories associated with it. It's that this deck, more so than any other I have found, has a very unique voice. Now, I'm somebody who is still, all of these years of reading tarot later, someone who has a sense of maybe ambivalence or kind of an agnostic sense about where the messages in tarot truly come from, whether it is truly something that is magical and divine and beyond ourselves, or if it's a reflection of our own internal psyche. I go back and forth between that a lot. But I will say with this deck, every time I read with it, I feel as if I am truly having a conversation and a dialogue with something that is so wholly beyond myself. I feel like this deck has a very distinctive, gentle, and deeply loving presence and energy to it. It is incredibly wise. It's one that is very suited for all kinds of readings. So this is one that is going to be good for day-to-day concerns. It's good for relationships. It's good for deep matters of the heart and for more difficult situations in life. But the messages flow so beautifully. I do a lot of automatic writing with this deck, actually. It truly feels like nothing else. And I think often when we talk about gentle decks, there is the implication that it is going to sugarcoat the message, or that it is going to solely be affirmation based. And that is definitely not the case. This is a deck that is very serious, that does not shy away from the difficulties and honestly, kind of the suffering that you can encounter along your path in life. But it is one that I keep coming back to unconditional love. Like, it is one that provides comfort and that provides great actionable advice no matter the circumstances. Even though, like we saw the Death card, that is one that has definitely been watered down from more traditional symbolism. I think that overall, like, this does have a very optimistic message that difficulties that we face are not the end. They are not insurmountable. That there is still a lot of beauty and a lot of meaning to be found in the world. And this deck, again, it acknowledges that complexity. It acknowledges that there is light and there is shadow in everything, but it helps you to be able to determine what is in your heart if you are feeling indecisive, or it helps you to be able to come back to a place of center and to determine what truly matters if you are in a difficult situation and need support and guidance. So that's what's kept me coming back over and over again throughout the years, is just this beautiful, life-affirming, this beautiful healing energy that just, it pours and it flows out of this deck, unlike any other that I have ever encountered. So if you have the Golden Tarot, I would love for you to let me know about your experiences with it. If you don't have the deck, but are considering getting it, I would say yes, wholeheartedly. This is just, it really is absolutely incredible. And I think if you are able to look past some of the flaws, if you are able to look past some of the imperfections, and if you are willing to dedicate enough time to really forge your own meanings and to go beyond just what the guidebook has to offer you. This is a very powerful tool for developing the intuition. Thank you so much for spending these 30 minutes with me. I hope again that you are having a wonderful day, and I am sending you much love and much light upon your own journey. Bye.